You may have been expecting to see me in New Hampshire today, but unfortunately, because of the New England weather over the last 24 hours, I didn't make it there. But hopefully, we will have news from New Hampshire for you very soon. Tonight is the New Hampshire primary. Voters have already started casting ballots. In fact, some very small towns have already declared winners. I will tell you about that a little bit later. But let's review what is going on first on the Republican side. Donald Trump is down dramatically in 3 recent polls nationally, but what is going on in New Hampshire? Let's start first with the national polling on the Republican side. 3 new polls from Quinnipiac, Rasmussen, and PPP all have Donald Trump falling off of his 37% national average of support. Basically, all 3 recent polls unanimous that Donald Trump is still in first place nationally, all unanimous that Ted Cruz is at least tied for second place nationally, ahead of Marco Rubio in 2 of the 3 polls and tied with Marco Rubio for second place in the PPP poll. Now, on average, Donald Trump with about 29.5% support in the Republican primary, Ted Cruz right around 21%, and Marco Rubio at 17.8%. Most interesting thing from this, Lewis, number one, the sort of drop off of Donald Trump, but number 2, that Marco Rubio continues to surge and has come close to tying Ted Cruz nationally for that second place spot. Not insignificant. This could be a big deal.
You would think that his recent implosion might affect these numbers.
Well,
maybe down the road.
Were all, even though they were released in the last couple of days, the sampling period was prior to when Marco Rubio's firmware glitched and had to, he went into repeat mode. Okay, so what's happening in New Hampshire? Because tonight is the New Hampshire election, the New Hampshire primary. In New Hampshire, the average of all polls right now has Donald Trump ahead, very much ahead, at 30.7%. And then we have Marco Rubio in second place at 14.4%, followed by Kasich at 13, Cruz at 12.4, Bush 11.3, and Chris Christie at 5.4. Jeb Bush bringing more energy to the New Hampshire primary than anything we've seen so far, Lewis, actually polling in double digits.
Yeah, that would be about a teaspoon of energy in reality. But Kasich, that's the big surprise here, isn't it?
That is interesting. And, it's not surprising because in my mind, the New Hampshire voter, aside from the fact that they seem to most prefer Donald Trump, which is utter lunacy, seems to be more traditional conservative minded. So it's not a surprise to me that someone like John Kasich is doing well. What is surprising is that Rand Paul couldn't get any traction in New Hampshire in spite of the fact that his father, Ron Paul, more sort of considered a libertarian, et cetera, tended to do well in New Hampshire. Let's remember that there are very few delegates at stake in the New Hampshire primary, and we have to think about it more as a PR primary than as one that will ultimately decide this election, Lewis. But we can't understate the PR value. Being an early winner is a big deal because of the momentum that it can give you if you don't implode.
Yeah, if you don't get stuck on repeat, if your firmware doesn't crash, and if you're someone like John Kasich who seems to have recognition problems and things like that. Yeah, great.
I look forward to hearing from the supporters of the candidate who doesn't do so well tonight and sort of what their outlook on this entire thing is going to be.